Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my authors' chats of the week. And as I look forward to having the notifications sent out and trying to connect with my co-host of the week, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. Let me see. Send this invite out, and we'll get things going momentarily. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I can hear you, cannot see you, and this always seems to happen. There's some trick where you're supposed to flip the camera around, and do not ask me how.
How's that?
Perfect. Hello. I
Hello,
can see
hello.
you. That's fantastic. So I
I'm grateful because my computer stopped working on me just moments before, so I'm glad I was able to connect.
Yeah, no, I feel like if something's gonna go wrong, it's always gonna be the moment you need it. Not
Mhm.
five, not 10, the moment. So I definitely have had those situations, but I'm glad it's worked out so far. And if you've ever seen any of these lives before, you know they're pretty conversational. If anybody in the
Mhm.
comments post anything bookish related or pertaining to our discussion, we'll try to make note of that. Depending, I'm pretty sure how people join the live. I may not see all the comments or questions, so feel free to point any of them out on your end if you see it before I do, because it may mean I can't actually see it.
No
But
worries.
outside of that, since you're my co-host this week, I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. So I'm Connor Gray. I write fiction, fantasy right now. My current book is urban fantasy. It is so it's based in today's world, but has magic systems and things of that nature. On that note, I'm currently writing books that are fantasy as well as horror and others as well, but right now I'm sticking primarily to fantasy, and all my books are based in fantasy.
I love that. So, what made you choose urban fantasy to be the subgenre of fantasy you were going to start out with? Because clearly you're interested in a wider variety. So, what made you choose?
So, actually, it kind of came to me. I've always wanted to write, but I didn't have a story that I felt was compelling or unique enough. And then one day I got hit with an idea and I just kind of ran with it. And next thing I knew, I thought about setting it in different worlds and things like that. But the way it came to me, it just felt like this world was best. So I said, why not mix it so that, people can imagine that they're going to get their next Hogwarts letter or accepted somewhere,
I love that.
So I just decided to base it in this world.
I have a story for you then, because when I was growing up, it was definitely the Harry Potter generation for the books, and I was of that same age as the kids when they were being published. And there was a moment, and I mentioned this before in different lives, but it's just one of those things. It was a moment where my sister and I both received letters in the mail, and that should probably have told me, but letters in the mail, they were invitations, these beautiful script written letters inviting us to Hogwarts. And of course, my sister and I were so excited. We were thrilled. We were talking about this, and we found out one of my sister's friends also got one of those invites, and we were all, talking about this. Of course, it was a thing the parents did just to be cute and everything. And when we found out, that kind of was like more hurtful than anything. I mean, we genuinely thought we were going to Hogwarts. So,
But see, that's the cool part. I saw forever ago, I saw this post, this GIF, and someone's like, I didn't get my Hogwarts letter at 11. I didn't go to camp, the one for Percy Jackson. And, it just goes through the list of all these things. And it's like, if I'm not accepted into this one by this age, I'm done with this world. But I
oh
love that it brings so much magic and people want that and crave that. So it just brings the story to life that much more.
no. So, tell me a little bit more about then your urban fantasy. Is this some kind of what do they call it? I was going to say academic, but that's not right. But they're like a dark academia. There you go. Kind of style, or what kind of urban fantasy? What are the vibes? Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, so the vibes are a little different. So I mix history in with it, but it takes place obviously in today's world.
Mhm.
So the main character, he discovers he has this ability while he's on campus, but he discovers he can read a book and enter that world.
I love
And that
that.
world is open to him, and he can do and take and interact however he wants as long as he doesn't come across a main character, because then he becomes what's called dried ink and he's trapped in that world forever.
That's fun. Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's kind of like the reverse of Inkheart, where instead of reading out the characters, you can go into the stories. And I think that's something that a lot of readers always, I don't know, I've always wondered is what would it be like if I was actually in the world of whatever story I'm reading, and now as a writer, whatever story that I'm writing. So it's kind of that just that fun concept of falling into a book and what would happen.
Hmm.
But I do like the twist about trying to avoid main characters because I feel like that's going to be harder than you think, even in the widest worlds of story.
Yeah, and originally I did that because I wanted to take our readers back into books that the stories are done, but that we want to explore that world more. And the funny thing was, eventually I was just like, you know what? No. And so I created every book they go into as an original world.
Oh, that's
Might be based in other ones, but I made it completely original. And with that, I did kind of people. I didn't know about Inkart at all because I started writing this
mm-hmm,
almost 7 years ago.
mm-hmm,
And in it, you can bring anything from that world back to ours, and it works in our world, which is where you get history with the Salem witch trials. People
mm-hmm.
caught them using magic and thought that they were witches and wizards, when in fact they were just stealing powers from other worlds.
Huh.
And so you kind of, yeah, I tied in some fun things like that, but
That is fun. And is this a series or a standalone book?
it's a series. So I'm releasing book two. October 1st is the goal. But book three is written, and there's actually another installment that comes 400 years after this series ends. So it's like series part two.
Oh, fun.
But I have multiple, I think I've got five different series ideas, and they're all based in this universe across time, either forwards or backwards or parallel.
I think that's a lot of fun. I know more and more authors I'm getting to know that are doing that, where it's great for building a readership because even if you're trying new concepts or maybe even new subgenres or genres, but when you have that link, it's easier for your readership to go along that journey with you, to sidestep,
Mhm.
go backwards, go forwards. And again, it enriches that world you're creating because you're developing, extending the time frame or again broadening the scope of your story. So that is really neat and a lot of fun. So how long I guess during throughout your foreseeable future, you're going to be in this kind of world that you're developing, or is there any story of your whole list that may jump totally different?
So I do have two. One that jumps back in history about 2,000 years, more like 4,000, 5,000 years before. So
Oh, wow.
very, very far back, like that's where the magic system will originate from, and how I'm going to create it. But I have another series, a book that's going to go out of this world, and that's my sci-fi one. I'm itching to write that one so bad. But my wife talked me into writing her another book first. So once her rough draft is done, I get to write the one I want. Uh,
You gotta listen. You
but they're
gotta
going to
make your wife
leave.
happy. I get it.
Yeah. So she's actually the reason why I kept writing. So I wrote the first book and the had notes for the next two books.
Mm-hmm.
But she read the first one and said, "For my birthday, will you write me book two? And for
Oh,
Christmas, will you write me book three?" Which was 2 months after her birthday. I wrote both of them.
wow, that's
So
intense. I don't think I could do. I can't. Yeah, I even at my best effort, I don't think I can write that fast. I mean, with maybe exception a couple of my novellas, like for my novella series, I was able to turn out in that time frame. But yeah, putting out a novel in that amount of time, kudos.
rough draft though. Keep in mind, like I'm still going back and being like, "Oh, this is bad. Let's fix it." But yeah, it's been fun.
And that's, I guess that is true. That is one thing for anybody who's listening who are new in the writing world. Uh, each author and each writer approaches first drafts differently. I'm a person that it takes me, I'm a little slower putting down first draft, but it's also very, very close to what it's going to be at the end versus some
Mhm.
other people who do a very crude rough draft, which is kind of what a rough draft is supposed to be. So you can come back and flesh it and tweak it and then make the adjustments and going forward. Both are fine. It just depends
Mhm.
on you.
And now when I write my rough drafts, they are much more detail oriented and exactly how I want, so that I literally just go back and clean it. But my first ones, like the first three, those ones were a little they were a little rougher, but they have the plot and everything in there. So
And that's really kind of the important part. Even if it's almost like a outline essentially. That's kind of what it is you can come back and again flesh it out, build out the story, and maybe the story changes as you do that. It happens, it really does. Have
Hmm.
you ever had a situation so far where something's occurred in the story that you as the writer, the creator, did not expect? Maybe it's a character, maybe it's a plot
Oh,
line.
yeah. Honestly, that's probably one of the things I love most about writing is I'll start with a general idea, and as I'm going through, I'm like, oh, this would be amazing. Like, think more, I feel like I'm more living the story than I am writing it, and I'm just dictating what's happening. Um, yeah, I probably my favorite character I ever came across in my story hit me as just inspo. Like, at first, I wrote them, and they were um, a villain, a pure villain, and as I went through, and I started going back through my edits, and then all of a sudden, I just felt like they weren't a villain and they changed and they made the story and they enriched it so much that they're probably my favorite character now in the whole first saga that I've written. Like, just love them.
So
So,
much fun. No, I absolutely love those experiences. And even though right now I'm working on wrapping up a second book of a Greek myth based duology, the story is pretty much there. So, it sounds like I'm not really inventing anything. And in a way, I'm not, because I am trying to keep it as true to the myth. But there are these time gaps that I'm like, well, I need to kind of flesh it out. What else can I do? And in that time, it's just amazing where the story goes and then how it all ties back when it needs to tie back. And I'm like, that's nice. It's kind of
that's,
creepy and
yeah,
magical and wonderful.
but it's fun because in those gaps, you can create any story, any character you want because not all heroes survive in the end.
That's
So you get to
correct.
create whoever you want, or maybe someone comes and saves the hero and disappears, disbands from the main plot. But that's so much fun. I'm jealous. Freak. I'm
It is.
Yeah. So the one my wife's had me write, she told me I want Vikings and mermaids. So from
Right.
there, I said, cool. I'm now going to mix in Greek gods. I'm going to mix in Egyptian gods, and then I'm also going to mix in Norse gods. That they all battle each other simultaneously for control of the world. So I think it's so fun when people mix in Greek mythology and those things. It's such a rich resource.
Well, any mythos is too, and
Mhm.
as I've written fantasy and fiction where I pulled inspiration from a variety of places, and then I have my retellings that I keep true, kind of more or less to a, again, mythic retelling. But regardless, whatever it is, it's so I loved myth because it's such a important source material not only for authors today, but the authors that inspire many of us have been inspired by some myth at some point, and
Mhm.
it kind of works backwards. So it's kind of fun to like when you start deep diving in that, and then all of a sudden you pick up on things when you read or reread a story. You're like, oh, I kind of think I know where you got this idea from, and I just think that's just such a neat thing to like be able to work backwards. But let
I
me
agree.
ask you, what when you began writing your first book, and your first book's called what again? I don't know if you mentioned the title.
Scribe's Wet Ink is the first book.
I like that. So when you began that, there are a lot of authors, and I totally understand that will start writing, or writers, I should say, that start writing and then don't follow through with it. So what motivated you to follow through with that story? Was it just the fact that you were just caught up in it, or was there something else that helped you push you through that hump of completing a first book?
So my first rough draft, it was a little more choppy. Everyone's who read it was like, yeah, it read a little bit more like a movie script than it did a book. But at the time, so my first book was inspo from a dream I had. When my character first discovers he has this power was actually a dream verbatim that I had. And so I woke up and I went about doing physical therapy as a physical therapist at the time. And one of my patients happened to be an author. And I was just kind of telling her how I wish I could. And she's like, well, why don't you try it sometime?
Yeah.
So then I started thinking about the dream I had and started just creating backstory and daydreaming about it as I was driving from patient to patient that day. And the next day was the weekend, and my wife was sleeping in, my kids were sleeping in, And so I just was bored. I didn't care to do anything else. So I just grabbed a laptop, started writing. But from that day on, it was kind of more like I was driven to finish the story for myself. And unfortunately, it didn't fit in one book or two. And then it came into three. And now I'm like, it really should be four, but I'm going to make it three.
Fair, fair. But no, I mean, never try to force a story to be, lesser or more than it needs to be. And it's
Hmm.
okay if you're only writing a novella. That's totally fine. Like I said, I have a whole series that are just novellas. But sometimes, as in your case, you're writing a book, and the same thing with Tolkien with The Lord of the Rings. It was meant to be one book, but it's always
Yeah.
printed in 3 volumes because it's just so much of it that it would be kind of publishing wise impossible to kind of.
Especially back then, it would be such a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I'm so glad it was three. That's actually probably that and Harry Potter were my two biggest inspirations for writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the The Hobbit is by far my favorite book. None will pass it, but I think J.K. Rowling's writing style is absolutely like genius. The way she ties it together and paints a picture, she does a really good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, since I was a kid, those were the books that got me writing and reading. Because I wasn't much of a reader before Harry Potter, and I started just diving into it, and that's what um, threw me into this world. And now those two will always be my inspiration, so to speak.
I love that. Yeah, because again with you, like that was kind of my generation, and so even though I already, even from a young age, probably prior to Harry Potter, was always saying that I was going to be a writer and publish fantasy because I just love that stuff, but definitely that series was just very instrumental for a whole generation in many ways. And I remember there was a documentary that came out kind of talking about where she was getting her ideas, and again pulling from various myths and everything, and I just was like, that is so neat, people can do that. And I just, yeah, so who knows what the inspiration will be. And then the next generation, as you kind of mentioned, Percy Jackson a little earlier, that one definitely was impactful for some kids that were slightly younger than I was. I never read it because it came out after the fact. I guess I was a little too
Mhm.
old for that per se. I probably should read it because you're never too old. I get it, but like yeah, you never know what is the next book or series that will be that one that will influence the whole generation, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I mean, honestly, the way I looked at it is, if I inspire one person, I'm more than happy as a writer. So, uh, so that's my goal. By the way, if you read Percy Jackson, I recommend you read it. Don't listen to it; you'll get more into the story. But
Okay.
it is a fun read. Even as an adult, I've gone back and reread it. It was fun.
I hear it all the time. My problem is I'm such a slow reader, and for years and years and years,
Mhm.
my passion even today, I still love like the source material for most myths. So I'll like I just the prior book that I just read was Ovid's Metamorphosis, which some people are like will go cross-eyed and be like, why? Like, well, I'm pairing that, and now I moved on to the Wheel of Time, and the next one I'll probably read one of my Indie Author Friends books, and I just always jump around, but it is, yeah, it's definitely one that I need to add as the Percy Jackson series at some point.
At some point, no rush. We'll get to it when you can. But
Yeah.
yeah, those are definitely some fun ones that I've really enjoyed over the years. I feel bad because people are always giving me new books. I have actually another author who works with me in my day job, and I read his book, but I had to pause a few other books. So now I've got to go back to my TBR art list and dive back into them. But I actually got one this weekend from someone, CR Hunt,
Mhm.
and the book looked a little darker than what I was used to, but he just talking with him, he mentioned a few ideas. And it just struck me as such a cool idea that it really makes me want to just even dive into his books more.
And that's always fun is when you start talking to other authors and networking. Because one, you can get so much. Well, you can do the passive back and forth of great ideas, and then if you're trying to learn things, it's great. Resources, and you never know what you can find. And that's one of the reasons why I love this particular book talk community because you never know what you're going to discover next, and it's really neat even when it comes to what you're reading next. So that is
Mhm.
a fun thing. So let me ask you, since you have a book out and your second one's publishing early October, which is really neat. Are you planning, like, how do you plan your book releases? Like, do you do anything special? Do you just put the book out and be like, go, you free?
So the first one was very much just like, I have to get this out. I'm never going to stop editing it and nitpicking it for various reasons. So I just threw that one out there. Um, book two, we have a book store in where I'm local to where I'm at, and I'm going to be doing a little book event there. Hopefully, they said they would do one. I also have one in where I was just at, where I was talking with that other author. Was at a book event, and they offered me to come back there as well. And so I'm planning on doing that. But as far as like social media and stuff like that, I'm a smaller platform here. So I'm just trying to tell people, but I don't really have too much of a plan, mostly because I don't know too much what to do.
We
Before
don't,
my
none of us
book release, I haven't had social media for 14 years.
do.
So I'm like, I think I'm supposed to post stuff. I don't know.
Mhm.
Just having fun with it.
For whatever reason, I have such a terror. I can talk about books all day, but when it comes to an upcoming release, I always either don't think about it or just want to talk about what I'm currently writing, which won't be published in a few years, or the stuff that I've already published, and then I never think about it. Like, for instance, on the 19th, I'm releasing my next book. I noticed
Ooh,
that I just posted my first video slightly mentioning that, it's coming out, and I was just like, man, I'm terrible at that kind of thing. I just prefer it already out there and be like, here's where you can find it. Now let's talk about it. The build up of excitement, I'm horrible at that. I really am.
yeah. I have a hard time even talking about my book. Like I'll talk about fun things related to it, but as far as like the plot and story, I've never done a video just being like, "Hey, here's how it is. Here's what this book is. Here's what the story is. Dive in." Um, I'm just bad about that. I'm not the best marketer.
So I'm challenging myself on my book talk channel is every day I do a little posting about, and I just, because I started writing this new book, which will become the second book of this Greek mythology,
Ooh,
and I just more or less like mini documenting the journey, and it's just little snippets of just like maybe what I researched today or where I am or some of the cool concepts that I've researched because I'm nerding out at ancient Greek history as well as the mythos, and just going to try to follow it up until publication, and maybe that will be the way I can approach building a buzz of a book going forward. But that doesn't help any of these other books that are just sitting in the wings that are going to be published before that one.
yeah, I know. I've tried to research in different methods, but it's such a pain. But it's fun when you start. I was um visiting my sister and her friend was over, and I was telling them about the book that I was dictating on my drive over there, the Viking one.
Mhm.
And her friends started speaking up and started like she knew more about Viking mythology than anybody I've ever met, and she just started like talking with me, and we were
That's me.
joking.
I
But
actually heard that. I love
yeah, I know. I was like, I need to borrow you for a few minutes. Is that okay? But it's fun. I mean, just to get into that stuff and to dive into the weeds of it and trying to figure out
that.
the details so that you're not, putting something out there that's not correct. But it is challenging to talk about the books that you have done. Everyone just tells you to just keep writing, but they don't tell you how to market it along the way.
No, I think it's because most of us don't know how to market. There are a few authors out there
Yeah.
who got that spark, who figured it out, at least for them. And the problem with marketing is that it's so specific to the person and genre and book and subgenre that what works for one person may not work for another. What works for one person one time may not work for the same person at a different time for a different book. And it's just, that's the struggle. And so, one, I've never been good about it at all. Two, knowing that it's hard to be asked, I always ask, I'm like, what has made you successful in this? That doesn't mean it's going to apply to me, but it is
Yeah.
something that I'm just curious about. How can I
Yeah.
improve?
I even love when people do like the little ads, the AI ones. I wish I knew how to do that. That's so cool that they can like bring stories to life with those AI little live animation photo videos.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some of those. For me, I always have mixed feelings when it comes to AI stuff, but do I think it's
Yeah.
very beautiful? Yes. Does it catch people's eyes? Yes. Is that what ads are supposed to do? Yes.
It's It's funny. So my book, I purposefully didn't put any characters' faces on there
Mhm.
because I didn't want people to draw the same picture that I have for the character. I want them to conclude their own. Um, and I just think it's more fun that way. When it always bugs me when you find a favorite band and you finally see the lead singer and you're like, oh, that's not what I pictured at all, or a book or something like that. So I want to have people create their own images. So that's the one drawback I feel like to some of those ads is that it somebody else's interpretation of it, not your own.
That is true. I think I've noticed now that I've worked on a number of books and series, depending on, again, the book or series, will depend on how much description or lack thereof I incorporate. For instance, the Greek myth I'm working around because it's very fresh in my mind. I'm not doing a lot of description at all. Maybe a little hint here or a little bit there just to differentiate. But for the most part, I really am avoiding a lot of descriptions on that one compared to my Nordic myth series, where I went to far more heavy descriptions of what everybody looked like and how they act, uh,
Mhm.
dressed and etc. so on. So it just felt right for those. So you never know. Maybe the next book you write, you will have heavy details and everything. But I don't know. It is curious. Like, when I talk to authors, how heavily do you describe your characters? Why or why not? So.
Yeah, with Wet Ink, I described him a little bit more. The next books, I maybe bring up a detail about him, but not too much because it's a saga you should have read. But even my stories I'm writing now, it's much less detail oriented. I maybe bring up their eye color just so you can kind of have that. Unless there's a purpose for a distinctive purpose, I try not to mention it at all. Just kind of leave it where it's at nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And again, it is fun for a lot of readers to imagine the character however they may choose. Though there are also readers I've talked to, they're like, "No, describe it to me. I want to know what this person looks like," and you can't please them all, so you have to pick.
Yeah, I would say go with the story and what feels right. Like we were talking about with discovering the story. If it doesn't make sense to describe the characters in great detail, just leave it where it's at.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I love that. So, with your books, are you writing for like what kind of age audience? Are you doing more adult, young adult, middle grade? Because we've talked about a whole variety of books that we like to read. So, what is your audience that you're aiming for?
So originally, I was aiming for early young adults, but I had to pull too many punches, and it was making the story feel a little flat. So I said kid gloves off, which dropped me into young adults to adults, which is funny because I've had a 14-year-old read my book and love it, and I've had a 44-year-old my book and say it was great, loved it. Um, so I just kind of put it in the young adult area just so that it can kind of reach both, but I tried to make it be fun enough for a younger audience and magical enough, but still realistic enough, and some of those harder points for somebody who's experienced more life that they can step into it and experience the hardships with it as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. I write, depending on the series, young adult, new adult, adult stuff, and yeah, depending on what age bracket you're aiming for, you can or should not incorporate stuff or all the things that you could use in an adult book, if you know what I mean. But also,
Yeah.
like thematically and topics and everything, you want it to be able to understand and relatable to a younger audience. So that's always something to be aware of. I know with my YA, my characters in the books age up almost 1 year with each book. And so thematically, some of the stories and some of the complexity of the interrelationships with characters and plots grow as the series goes on. But I still have to remind myself I can't do the similar things that I do in my, darker adult books because yeah, just let's not. I have to make sure I, put a little more optimism in my YA versus some of the almost grimdark side of dark fantasy.
Yeah, and I think first off, I have to tip my hat to you because I think it's really impressive when authors can do the 1 year per. I tried it and I couldn't get it to work. I can jump a few months, but or a few years, but I can't do it. So I'm really impressed. And that's part of the reason I figured people who'd start book one would kind of grow with it, and kind of by the time they read the third one, it's going to be darker. Sorry for the spoiler alert, but it is a little darker. But yeah, hopefully it's not too dark. I did try to tone back some of those moments.
Yeah, I know. I was working on writing the sixth book of my because it's a isekai portal fantasy and it's set in a magical multiverse. And I was writing it, and I was like, man, we've had some hard stuff go back to back to back with these young people. I might need to give them a win. It was
But
not meant.
sometimes that's the good thing. It's like they're where are they getting those little wins that keep them going, you know? And honestly, as authors, you have to have those little wins that put a little more wind into your sail and keep you moving along.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what they all say. No.
I know. Right now, I'm fighting my book cover, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, it doesn't need a cover. Just it can be blank. Just put it out there.
That
But
would be an interesting thing.
approach.
Oh, or you have this kind of, it looks like a blank cover with just a pen. Like
Oh, that's cool.
illusion of a pen. And if one of those, I don't know, I think it's so weird now because I got a new credit card recently, and they have those letters that you have to like look at the side and it's
Hmm.
like sheen. You have like the title and the slight sheen, and you have the pen. It's like
That
invisible
would
ink.
be cool. Oh, that would be so cool.
There you go.
Original, Originally, I tried to do the gold foil, and apparently, you can't do that with Amazon. So I was like, oh, bummer.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it's not with Amazon though. I'm about to put out my first special edition. Um, I'm trying to see if I can get all the ducks in a row for later on this year. I don't know. I'm waiting on one piece of art, and until I get that, it's kind of hard to like set everything else up. But I do want to have actually I want iridescent foil on the cover, but it ties into my Nordic because it's going to be special editions of my Norse mythology series. And in it, I'm using the concept of Fulgir, which in the belief system of the Old Norse people are your animal-shaped guardian spirits. And so I describe them as this kind of very iridescent, almost mother of pearl look to them. So I'm choosing that as the foil, have this kind of iridescent
Ooh.
sheen. If it works out, we shall see.
So something cool would be to have your title, but as you move the book, then your characters pop up as iridescent, so that you have to move it to kind of see. I don't
That would be neat. I don't know how to do that. I do know
know.
how to order the iridescent foil though.
But see, that's why we're authors and we're not, uh, artists in that sense.
Wait, some authors have that skill, and it is
They really do.
amazing to me. I'm an artist as well, but I do very different kind of art, so it doesn't work for book covers, especially in my genres. So it is something that I highly respect when someone's capable of doing these kind of really intricate designs and cover designs, and it's just wowing to me. What I
Yeah.
need to know, and for anybody out there who's an author who knows this, please let me know. I want to find a place that creates those 3D mock-ups, and I know how to do the standard 3D mock-up, but my goal for my special edition is to have sprayed edges. And I see these 3D mock-ups when people running like Kickstarters and everything of their books with these, what their sprayed edge will potentially look like. I need to know how they do that. Where did they, who do they pay? I need this information.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah, I was actually looking at Lumi or something like that. I can't remember the thing, but as I'm messing with covers, it was showing how you can like do those hard edges where they paint the spine and or the pages. I think that's so cool. I would love to get more involved with that stuff, but maybe I'll have to
It's
take a class to learn that stuff. It's just
there's
yeah,
so much there's so much you can do. You don't have to do it all. Remember that. And probably for the most, the average author, you probably shouldn't try to do it all because there's so many options out there.
yeah,
But with that said, master what you want and then expand. Master what you want and expand to help grow yourself in whatever way you want to grow. And I did notice somewhere, I think someone was asking about Stone and Sky. That is by the author Z.S. Diamante, one of my friends. And great guy. So sorry. I saw a comment that popped up a little
No,
while
you're
ago.
good. You're good.
What
I,
happens?
I
I
just
start
saw that
talking,
too.
I'm like, I forget about that. Anywho, but yeah, Zach's a great person as well as another book talk author here. Now, there's no oh, okay. So for you, what is your favorite way to reach readers at this moment? You said social media is something you're still trying to feel out. Are you in person, kind of like event? Because I heard you mention something about doing events a little earlier.
So I kind of did. I did I stopped by and said hi to somebody who was showing support for somebody who I sent a book to,
Mhm.
and they liked it, and I wanted to show their support. Ashley Hammer, she's really cool. She's diagnosed, unfortunately, with pretty serious illness.
Oh, wow.
So they were doing a fundraiser for her. So I promised her I'd stop by, and she recently read my book and has been loving it. So I'm actually going to dedicate my third book to her for just her being so supportive.
Yeah.
Um, I like more interaction face to face. It's hard to
Mhm.
keep up with all the messaging. I try to get to them, but I got two notices just now saying, "Why aren't you talking to me?" I'm just busy. I like being in person if I can swing it. But if not, any way I can, really, I want to reach readers.
Yeah, no, I do love in-person events. It's something that I started getting into past year and a half, 2 years, and it's definitely a different animal. And I know not all authors are face-to-face people. There are a lot of authors that are identify as extreme introverts or introverts in some
Mhm.
way. I'm not. I am an extrovert. So in-person events make sense to me. So, and I love these kind of live chats as well, because it's like that next thing, even though we're not really face to face across, the room or whatever,
Mhm.
it's still just kind of nice to be able to talk to other people, and look at each other and engage that way. But yeah, going to events is great, and there's so many to choose from, depending on if you're just doing a bookstore signing solo to big giant conventions. So whatever you're comfortable with, there are
Yeah.
ways to meet readers.
I feel bad. I'm kind of out of the loop. I haven't even been able to make it to a convention yet, which is killing me because I want to go so bad, just for fun. But in the meantime, I'll just do what I can. Hopefully, here in the near future, especially as these books are coming out, I'll be able to engage more with that and dive into it. That's my goal, my hopes, my dreams. We'll see what happens, but in the meantime, just keep swimming, right?
Yeah. And if you are interested in, conventions, I would definitely advise you to attend one before you choose to maybe try to go behind the scenes and sign up for one, just so you can see what each one offers, and if you feel like you're at that stage that you're ready for. Because depending on, let's say you're selling at a booth, there are things then you have to, like, obviously budget for. Are you having signage? Are you
Mhm.
having shelves and all that kind of the little things that cost up front that you have to compensate on the flip side. The same thing with panel is like, are you going to be comfortable talking with people about a certain topic? But with that said, I think they're great experiences, so I highly
Yeah.
advise them for anybody. So to
In the
attend
future.
or participate on the big panel up front.
Yeah, I see authors up at those, and I'm like, love-hate relationship. I'm allowed to say that, right? Like, I mean, it's fun to talk to people and geek out. I mean, that's one thing I really love about my story is part of the reason why I wrote it the way I did. It makes it so any story that you love doesn't truly go away. I mean, if you can imagine yourself going in that world, what would I do in that world? And that's what I love most about my book. But I love it because I can geek out with people and talk with people. People will be tell me about the stories that they would like to go into and explore further and what they would do. I'll even ask them, be like, if you could go into any book, what would you go into and why? It's
Yep.
just it opens up worlds, which is fun.
It does. It absolutely does. And you never know. Maybe because I love trying to come up with some unusual ways to engage with readership and fandoms that I'm trying to create. But you never know, with the people who start reading your books, and as you start building out your following, you could do something one day and be like, let's invent a world together, and you pitch ideas and
So
I'll
much
write you
fun.
story as a thank you and whatever, because those things are kind of fun because people love being involved with the creative process, even though if they don't identify as being creative.
Hmm. Which is funny. A lot of people are a lot more creative than I
Oh
think
yeah.
they're aware of. I mean, I'll just talk with people, and for example, my wife, before I came up, she's like, "I want you to write me a book of all the tropes I hate. I want it to be good." I'm like, "Oh, fun!" But and I had like 5 minutes. I was like, "Okay, what about this for a story plot line?" And she's like, "Yep, that's your next book." I'm like, "Nope, you have to wait till after my space one, but I'll write it."
Too funny. I love that. No, it's good to have someone that challenges you, and especially
Mhm.
writing. I know my husband does that with me, and we've been having a lot of fun, or at least I think we've been having fun. But maybe I'm biased because I've been having fun coming up with ideas together. And like I'll throw an idea and I'll be like, "Okay, what do you think about this?" And he's like, "I have a counter," and he'll tell me that, and so I'm like, "Okay, I see what we're doing here. This is great."
That's a great idea, babe. But no, no.
or
Sometimes
something
they,
with it. Yeah, that's actually
yeah,
really good. Say that again. I need to write this down.
yeah. I mean, that's where I came up with the whole Viking one. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. This is cool." I can't talk about it because it'll give away stuff away. But probably a year off from that book anyway coming out. I'm trying to release some once every 6 months. We'll see. It's a little ambitious.
Yeah.
Um, but
Hey,
yeah,
that's a lot for someone who's starting the writing journey or people in general, because I know when I worked on my first book, it took me forever. And then the second book
it's
was far quicker, but still not quick. Nowadays I have a rhythm and a cycle, and I've built my foundation. So I am producing multiple a year, but 6 books is still a lot for a lot of people.
yeah, it is. Yeah, and
A
the only
book.
reason I'm going so quick right now, even a book the last one came out January, this one's coming out October, 10 months. The only reason it's able to come out so quick is because the rough draft was already written. So I just had to go back, clean it up, make it the story I wanted, make sure there weren't plot holes. And then at this point, it just needs a final read through and it can go out. So I'm excited for it, but it's fun. It is a process for people starting out.
Mhm.
Don't try for that stuff. Just get your first draft done and go from
Yep.
there.
Yep. And there is like I said a moment ago, I'll say it again. Writing your first book takes a lot of time.
It
And
does.
that time frame varies depending on person, but it takes a lot of time. But once you figure things out and once you start coming up with a routine and your writing voice and you know the sources you need to utilize to do the various stages, it gets quicker and it gets quicker and
Mhm.
you become more efficient. So it's not always going to take you for me. It took me almost a decade for me with the coming up with the idea to figuring out how to publish, and then on top of that, it took me a few years to realize, oh, I need to market my book.
Yeah. I know marketing will be that beast that forever. It'll be my windmill, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's a windmill for many people. But since the hour is going to start picking up speed, now we're hit that 3/4 mark. I do have a couple questions that I always like to ask because if this platform is nice, most of the time it
Mhm.
is. I'll repurpose this on my YouTube channel at a later time, and put all your contact information down below. Now, for everybody's here and listening in the potential future, where can people get your book? Like, are you exclusive through Amazon? Do you sell directly? Are you wide? Where can people find your book?
So yeah, right now I'm on Amazon and I like to do it's on Kindle Kindle Unlimited KDP. I try to do free book promotions for my first book. I'm honestly trying to give it away as much as I can because if you enjoy it, then come back for book two.
Mhm.
But I try to do a lot of follow me and I'll promote it, promote those days when it's free. I gave one away the other day. I didn't promote it like I should have, but I just decided, you know what? Why not give it away today? So I did. But yeah, so right now Amazon, I'm hoping here in the near future to release it to Barnes and Noble, which means I'll probably have to take it off of KDP. That's okay, or Kindle Unlimited, not KDP, but Unlimited. But I'm hoping to do Barnes and Noble, a few others along those lines, but also so that I can come up with a special edition.
Okay. Well, just know, even if you're in KDP, you can distribute your print books wide. It's just the ebook that you have to stay, or your audiobook, depending on if you do audio. So, what formats do you have? Obviously, you have KDP. You say Kindle Limited, so you have your ebook. Do you have
Mhm.
print versions at the moment? And if so, paperback, hardcover. Which one?
I do paperback and hardcover. I actually just barely redid the covers for both of them. I sent it out to NetGalley, and the feedback I got was great book. The book cover doesn't do it justice, so I totally revamped it, gave it a more edgy feel. So that's what's on there now, a little more timeless look. But those are the three versions it is right now, and I am working to do the audiobook as well. I don't have the funds to hire somebody for something like that. But one of my best friends, actually, two of my best friends do audiobooks. So
Ooh,
they're walking me through the process of doing that.
mhm.
And my book switches from the main character Zane and Ellie's perspective at times. So I'm actually thinking I'm going to do the male version. And then when it switches perspectives, have her do the female perspective.
Ooh, that's neat. That I like that. Now, I will also say, in case you're not aware of, there is that option if you go through something like the ACX of the Audible platform
Hmm.
that you can do the split fare, so you're not paying anybody up front. You just sign a contract that for the next, I think it's 7 years, you do a 50-50 split for the 40% per profit. So it's only 20% that you
Ooh.
get per sale, but you never have to do anything up front. And I'm only saying that because some people do take advantages, and there's certain narrators that prefer that. But the counter is you have that contract with them for 7 years, and because it's through Zon, essentially, you have to keep your book only through their ACX system for that set time. So pros and cons. I have one series that does that. I have two series that I pay outright, but because I'm trying to do three different series simultaneously of audiobooks, it's expensive. So I
Yeah.
opted to do this split for one of them, but that does exist. So be aware.
ACX.
Yeah, so ACX, yeah. So, but pros and cons, look at it. Think about what you want out of your book now and potentially in the future before you make your decision any which way, but that does exist out there.
I'm very, very interested in that. I am a bit of a perfectionist. So when I read my own book, it's hard for me because I'm like, oh, there's an error there. I don't like the way that sounds. It can sound so much better. So that's the hard part with me narrating it myself. So I'm curious. I'm going to look into that because a lot of people listen, and I just want to get this first book out to people for them to enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's something that once you have an audiobook out there, you inherently will be reaching a whole new group of readers because there's so many people who not only prefer, but that is like the way they read books is through the
Hmm.
audio version, and that may be because someone has a sight impediment, or maybe they're a little they have dyslexia, and it's harder for them to find dyslexic friendly font, books, or it could be just some people who drive for a living. There are so many reasons why people only read audiobooks. And so being able to access and reach that whole different population of readers is pretty cool. So,
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people at my work, because they're busy with their hands, they can't, but they'll listen all day long to books. So I've
yeah.
had numerous people asking me already for the audiobook, but fortunately, I just don't have it yet. So I'm going to definitely look into that ACX.
Yep. And if you want to spend, you have to put the time and money into it. Well, definitely the time part. There's also the option of crowdfunding for audiobooks. So things like Kickstarter and all that, because I definitely know some people who did that in order to raise the funds to pay a narrator. That was a way they got around it, so they could actually afford to pay the one they wanted. So there
Mhm.
are options.
I know I got to look into it more. I've been so gun ho on just getting my books out that
Yes.
I haven't had the most time to look at it, but that is something I'm really excited to start looking at. Book three, I'm going to take a little bit more time on getting it out there. I'm not going to push myself quite so hard
Yeah.
as book two, but it's also going to be like 600 pages.
Sorry, you
Sorry.
you disappeared for a second there. I was like, I didn't
Yeah,
touch
my,
anything.
my phone's telling me I'm running out of battery. I still have enough. Don't worry, we're good.
Okay,
But
okay. We won't be that much longer, but I also do want to ask, while I know you're here before your phone cuts you off, is where can people find and follow you when you're not on Book Talk? Do you are you on any of the other socials? Do you have a newsletter or website, that kind of thing?
well, right now, you can follow my Amazon page. I'm on Instagram as well, and my handle is the same for Instagram as it is for Book Talk. TikTok.
Mhm.
So those two, I am working on getting a website up right now, and I'm hopeful that I can drop that here later this month.
Ooh,
Uh, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited because I do need to start a newsletter, but also I want to do that because if I start doing the the more elaborate copies, I want to be able to give my own touches and sign copies and send them to people as well. So I'm trying to create that as well. So that will be coming hopefully when I start releasing newsletters.
that's fun. That's exciting. Yeah, that's all. There's so many things when you're starting a writing journey that you don't think about. You're like, I want to
Yeah.
write a book, put it out there, and then write the next book and put it out there. And I don't think a lot of authors initially or writers initially think about, oh, website, marketing, advertising. How do we find an editor? How do we do this process?
Even book covers, formatting,
It's
those
so
things.
ambitious. Like,
Yeah. I feel like I'm constantly making decisions and I'm like, I don't like this. My brain hurts.
it is a job, and for people who even if people aren't doing it at the moment as a full time thing, or even if people don't want it to be a full time thing, it's still a job in many
It
ways.
is.
So there's a
It
lot.
is. People always ask me how I have the time, and I say when my kids go to sleep,
Yeah.
then I go in my own little world for a few hours, and then I come out and go to sleep.
And that is something that I find amazing, and you should give yourself, a pat on your own back, because I am fortunate. Knock on my books. I mean, that's what. Okay, I am currently a full time author and artist, but not everybody is at that stage. And for people who are beginning, and for people who have day jobs and second or third jobs, and have families and have these outside hobbies, and still finding time to write. That's
Hmm.
impressive. And that says something about the person you are and what you're passionate about, because not everybody chooses writing. They could, maybe, in theory, but they
Yeah.
don't.
I have a few hobbies, but I just have to weigh and say, you know, which one. And sometimes I do have to say, you know what, not writing today because it's not quite there, and I don't want to do myself more harm or the story injustice. But weekends, you know, when people are taking naps and stuff, and you're kind of just have a lull, not that everyone does, but when you do, that's a great thing. Sometimes my kids will be watching a movie, I'll sit down with them.
Mhm.
They're engulfed in their whole thing, and I just fall into my book. I'm right there with them though, and I'm still spending time, but just entertaining myself with something else instead of the movie.
Yeah. And well, depending on how young your kids are, what movie they're watching, you may have seen that movie like a umpteen time. So if they ask
Yeah,
you a question, you probably could, repeat that line if needed.
yeah, it's bad. My kids are like, "Hey, can we rewatch Matilda?" I'm like, "You just watched it 3 times today. Yeah, let's watch it a fourth one." Yeah, they're just at that age, so it makes it a little easier to just eject myself from the movie and do what I'm
I'm
doing.
here.
But
I'm here. Oh, just looking up. Okay, that's the scene where everything's floating. Okay, we're good. Okay, go
yep,
back to good movie though. And interestingly enough, I think that really did start as a book, which I have not read.
it did. I'm actually reading it to my children right now. I bring
Aw.
them through stories every now and then. We did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We've done the Sherlock Holmes. My little boy loves those. And my daughter is in Matilda right now.
Huh, that is really cool. Yep, nope, that was one I never read, and then just one of those after the fact. I was like, oh wow, that was a book.
Yeah,
Missed that one. Somehow I missed that one. But no,
actually,
I have to ask that question: is the book better than the movie?
it's a little different. I'm actually liking it a little bit more. You're getting to know Matilda a little bit deeper. And it takes
Okay.
place, from what I'm understanding, in England, not in America,
Huh.
which is kind of fun. It makes a little bit more sense with Trudgebull and the teacher why they have accents. Um, but
Yes.
yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda were written by the same author.
Wow, I definitely did not know that trivia. Oh, trivia. The more you'll know. So
Which,
let me ask you, since we have a couple minutes left, and for anybody who's listening who wants to, this is something for you as well. Um, so, is there any question that you have that you haven't had a chance to ask? This would be that great time. And if there is anything topic wise you wanted to cover that we didn't cover, this is also that time to try to do so.
Actually, my question is, what has been your favorite book to write? What have you enjoyed the most?
It's always whichever book I'm working on right now. Mine is the one that I just finished because that one was a struggle. And that one, I don't know why. It was just a struggle for the first draft of the last book. But yeah, typically it's whatever book I'm currently working on. I know that's an answer you hear probably a lot with authors, but there is something fun about getting swept up in a new story and
Mhm.
enjoying the characters. I have found that right now I do list more to the adult side of fantasy, and so that's a lot of the projects that I'm either working on now or planning to work on in the near future are going to be geared more for an adult audience for various reasons. I do have a tendency to like more of the darker fantasy, but no, I think it's whatever one I'm currently working on. I am also finishing up a bunch of these independent or duologies, these little ones behind the scene when I have gaps of time that I haven't published yet, because I'm a little nervous about my two series that I'm just loosely starting to world build for, because they both have these grand scheme ideas, and it's been so long since I've started a new grand scheme idea that I'm like, I'm just gonna fill my time with small projects as I procrastinate. But I should get to some of these longer series. How about
I
you?
get it.
With
So,
you putting up with all these new ideas behind the scenes, I know you haven't had a lot of time to dedicate on all of them equally, but is there one that you're just kind of like, I'm looking at you?
the third one, book one has some betrayals and things like that that you don't see coming, um, that are fun to see. Book two has some really big twists and turns, some plot twists that were really, really fun. But book three is where my favorite character comes from. Um, and just the struggle and the what you see them go through is and become triumphant in their way, I'll say. Not everybody wins,
Yeah.
but they become triumphant in what they were trying to achieve. So it's fun. But with that, yeah, probably my third book. I'm really excited though for my sci-fi one. It that one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for that.
Okay, quick trivia then. Since I asked this for one of my questions of the day, is your sci-fi going to be on the what do they call it? The hard science side of it, or the is it the harder science sci-fi versus the slow sci? Man, now I forgot the term. See, I'm not a
No, you're
sci-fi
good. You're good.
person. But you know what I'm
So,
talking about. Like,
yeah, I know what you're talking
how
about.
detailed is your how detailed and rigid is your sci-fi? There we go. I'm gonna ask it that way. Clearly, I'm not a
It's
sci-fi.
going to be a little bit of both. Parts of it are going to seem kind of blurry, and I'm doing that on purpose. Parts
Okay.
of it are going to be very, very rigid. I'm also trying to create a new weapons system that they fight with, and so it's not blasters. Blasters will be in the story, but I'm trying to have them fight more like telekinetically, psychically, that they've evolved past such thing as weapons. But it's going to be that one I'm really excited for. It takes place in the past, about 80 years ago. Um, so it takes place on our world, but then it jumps off our world for a few books. And
Hmm.
if it ever comes back, that will be towards the very end.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I appreciate sci-fi. I love watching all the kind of sci-fi, but I don't, for whatever reason, read a lot of sci-fi, and I don't know. I just always get drawn to either mythology or the high fantasy side of things, the epic fantasy. But I love sci-fi. So, for someone who hasn't read a lot of it, what would be a sci-fi book that you would recommend?
Don't judge me. I've never read a sci-fi book ever.
Okay, now I feel better. No, actually, I feel better.
The main reason what's drawn me into it though, is I want to see a good one. I love right now I'm actually watching Guardians of the Galaxy
Oh
with my
yeah.
wife. We just sit down and pick ones, but I love how colorful and bright it is. And I just want to kind of like, you know what? there's worlds out there and all sorts of stuff that I can incorporate, and there's no rules because it's not here. And so I get to go out there and do whatever I want, and I already have it like designed. The plot already is in place. But as I start to write it is when I get to start experiencing the twists and turns that I didn't foresee.
Oh, it's gonna be. Your journey is gonna be so much fun, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it on the end of that adventure. But I do want to say that thank you so much because I know we've hit that end of the hour. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm glad your phone made it through.
Me too.
You did it. If you ever want to do another one of these in the future, maybe after you release your next book in October, for everybody who hasn't
October.
paid attention, you said October 2nd. Wait, when you
October 1st is the goal.
first? The 1st of October. So, just let me know. I do plan them in advance.
Yeah,
But, I'd love to talk to you again. And it's so much fun to do these things.
it was fun. I would love to do another one sometime. Honestly, I really would. Yeah, and best of luck to you in your current writing endeavors. That's so fun. I'm really excited to explore it. My wife has read a few of your books,
Oh,
and she has referred me to check them out. So you are on my TBR list as well.
that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. I love that. Now you're going to make me blush. It is kind of fun when you're an author and you hear that. You're like, oh, people read my books. I mean, I know people read our books, but it's still
Mhm.
really neat to like meet someone who's just. Anywho,
Yeah.
okay. But thank you again, and for everybody who's been joining and hanging out with this hour. I do appreciate it. And I, again, try to have these about once a week. So maybe we'll see each other in the not too distant future. But have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was good chatting with you.